Welcome to The Finisher, a podcast about professional wrestling and all things, well, wrestling. Here are your hosts, Jerry Pickering and Dan Nawrocki. And I think we're live. We should be good to go.
And I unmuted my mic this time.
Good. You're perfect. I think we're
ahead of the game.
Yeah. We're getting our heads in the game, as they've been saying.
Well,
welcome to The Finisher, a podcast about professional wrestling. I'm Jerry. Dan's there on the screen, as you can see. And we are going to talk about some crazy crap that's been going on.
It's been an interesting week, and it's been an interesting week.
And it didn't end on a high note yesterday.
It ended It ended on a weird note yesterday. Yeah. Let's put it that way. And then
very weird note.
We'll get into that in a little bit. But since he made mention about being able to see me and the possibly obscene gesture at a camera, if you happen to be catching this live, well, then you already know that you should be following us on Facebook at The Finisher Podcast, where we do all of these podcasts live, and then we take the recording and throw it up to our various outlets, which run the gamut right now from Spotify to Google Podcasts, Deezer Podcasts. There's a bunch of different ways to find us.
You want to know where you can find us? On the bottom of the screen, there is a link to our website, thefinisherpodcast.com. Go there. You can read blogs and find exactly where you can find us on social media or our podcasts. All the links are there.
You'll also, up there at thefinisherpodcast.com, see some more blog material. I've almost got the rest of. I know I've been teasing this for like 2 weeks, but it's been a bit of a slog trying to do like 3 projects at once. But I've almost have the entire year of 1996 in your houses reviewed. That'll be up there momentarily within the next couple of days. This particular show, along with our top 5s, which is really the reason you want to go, because you'll be able to check some of the stuff out that we're talking about, will be up here later this afternoon as soon as we get done recording and I get around to writing.
And one thing I didn't really tell Dan, but I'm going to go ahead and just mention it now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the podcast, I'm going to put past episodes. Because this video also goes up to YouTube.
Yes.
It's done. So I'm going to just embed dates and the episode. So if you were bored and want to listen to it and watch something when you're sitting in your office working, you can pull that up. And I'm also going to make a title history page for who has held the predictions title, when they've held it and whatnot. Dan made that up, so I'm just going to put that on a page on the website.
Yeah, it's a really short list. Well, because we just reactivated
yep.
2.5 weeks ago, and there's only 2 of us, so we might have to consider bringing in at least 1 or 2 celebrity pickers to see just to the chance that somebody else could hold this belt for any amount of time. Because I mean, eventually you're gonna get really bored of us, and if you haven't gotten bored of us in 4 episodes, well, welcome to the show.
Welcome, yes. Because right now, after was it All In or All Out? Which one was it?
Double or Nothing.
Double or Nothing. Sorry.
This pisses me off even more that he doesn't know what the fucking show
I can't remember what it was.
A week ago.
So much shit going on, oh my gosh, that last match.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Before we go into Dynamite this past week, which had some big things going on, let's talk about that. And overall, I only got to see like the last half. I know I got to share the main event with you. But overall, a heck of a good pay-per-view card. Not a whole lot.
From what I've seen, the clips I've seen, the blog posts and everything, pretty stellar.
Not a whole lot of filler. A surprise match of the night coming out of MJF and Jungle Boy. Everyone was really just blown away by these two and how well they worked together and put that match together. I think a lot of people are also surprised by the world title match and Moxley and Brody Lee. Because I still think there's a lot of people approaching Mr. Brody Lee and being skeptical because of how he was treated the last several years in the WWE. But people that saw him work the years before he signed, amongst the various East Coast indies, he's a big man who can go. And they found a perfect way to cap that match off in one of those ridiculous spots. But the Stadium Stampede match is truly what stole the night, and I think it did a great service to these cinematic matches that we've
Yes.
been working with since the pandemic broke out.
I thought it was beyond well scripted, well put on. I mean, you had your comical moments, you had your um, serious moments, you had your athletica moments. It was just a whole array of everything,
Yeah,
and I thought it was done very well.
find any clips you can on YouTube. It's well worth your time. It's almost a half-hour long match, but it didn't seem like it drug on at all.
And I will tell you, we saw every incarnation of Matt Hardy.
Yeah, every incarnation of Matt Hardy in one like 3 minute, one little 3 minute clip there.
It
With
was great.
Santana
It was
and
great.
Ortiz. If you ever wanted to see someone being chased down by a horse, that's in there for you.
Yeah,
Uh,
and a golf cart again.
and a golf cart again. We're gonna feel really bad for Sammy Guevara if he ate that bumper one more time. Um, Instead, he ate 100 yards of Northern Light suplexes.
I was gonna
Uh,
say, yeah, he got suplexed 100 yards from end zone to end zone.
um, Chris Jericho lost his challenge, his replay challenge, which was great, and then even better that they did it with referee Aubrey Edwards, who is possibly more over than some of the talent.
Oh yeah, very much so.
She's awesome. It had honestly, it's well worth your time. And the Jags mascot ate a Judas effect.
He did. He sure as the heck did, and it was hilarious. I
I,
love mascots, man.
if it was on Dynamite, I missed it, but he should have shown up with like a little bandage over the giant nose and confronted Chris Jericho. But speaking of Dynamite,
Speaking
Chris
of
Jericho
Dynamite,
had some other guests confronting him towards the end of Dynamite, which was insane. I don't know where this will go. I want to see where this will go because it keeps Jericho in a prominent position without forcing him back into a program with Moxley. It allows Moxley and Lee, and eventually Moxley and Brian Cage, who debuted at Double or Nothing, winning the Casino Ladder match. And I can't say anything like great because I called it off the air, but who called it? Who called it?
you called it.
That's right, I called it. Seeing that one, knew it wasn't going to be Drew Gulak.
Who re-signed with WWE?
Yeah. Confronted in the ring by Iron Mike Tyson, who in his mid-50s looks like he could still rip phone books in half. And the recently retired UFC bantamweight champion Henry Cejudo. So I don't know where this is. If this is headed towards All In and another confrontation, and we're gonna see,
I'm all for it.
or all. Excuse me. If it's heading toward All Out, I am all in for it.
There you go. Perfect.
So it's as we keep gushing. Obviously, AEW is top of mind, but they kind of have the fresh. They feel like a fresher product right now.
Yeah, it's very fresh, very not repetitive.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to describe. I think
Because
both Raw,
WWE is getting repetitive on some of their matches. It's the same stuff
right,
week in, week out.
and it's there has to be a bit of a leeway, obviously, because you're really constrained in what you can do. And it was good to see them bring people back into the arena this past week of
Yes.
program. So on all three brands, you had the performance center talent coming in. Much like AEW has done, and having other talent around the ring acting as a crowd, they're acting as a crowd. They've even got like hockey boards.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like they're in a hockey rink almost.
Which unfortunately no one took advantage of. At least I noticed on SmackDown or NXT this week.
Needs to happen. Needs to happen.
So, but it does, except for the one thing we're going to mention from last night's SmackDown. It all seems like we've been here before and done here before, and everyone's just kind of going through the motions. And the reason Dynamite has felt different is that they really, even in half the program being squash matches every week, it doesn't feel like they're just going through the motions. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
And we had a pretty big tag team debut on Dynamite.
It's the one we all expected, the one
Exactly.
we were waiting for.
I figured it was going to happen
It was
on
still
Double or
kind of
Nothing.
out of nowhere. That's true. We were expecting they might have thinking maybe they run into the main event, but it didn't need the extra rundown. FTR showing up this week to confront the Young Bucks, and it feels like we are finally going to get that match, possibly over Labor Day weekend at All Out.
Young Bucks versus FTR.
Well, FTR, they're not reviving anything. Legally, they can't revolt against anything. So right now they're just FTR. Or as the new T-shirts say, "Fuck the rest." So we'll see if that's. You didn't see those, huh?
I didn't pay attention. No.
Oh no, they were literally on the up on the AEW web store about 2 or 3 minutes after that debut segment aired. So
nice.
They had that stuff ready to go.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was a huge debut there, and we're getting a call up on SmackDown. So if you want to transition over to this past Friday night.
Yeah, we can start that. We finally got the main roster debut of the original Bro.
Or the announcement. I don't know if they actually debuted. I don't think he actually debuted, but the announcement that he's moving to SmackDown.
And it was something we kind of assumed was going to happen because they needed, especially on SmackDown, you kind of want that name. And you want to be like, now you can tell this story. The UFC has been linked to Fox for had been linked to Fox for a while. You can now tell that story of him being a former mixed martial artist, lend him some legitimacy, and then let him go on your roster. Because I think when you're going to bring somebody up to SmackDown, you're reintroducing them because SmackDown is more likely to end up with that transient non-hardcore fan audience. One of those, you're on a network television. You're on a network television. You're likely to pick up people that aren't going to tune in specifically to NXT on Wednesday nights on USA.
True.
You're probably going to find more of a casual. So you have a chance to retell Matt Riddle's story, which I thought is great because they really need to retell his story from how it ended in NXT, which ended this past, as far as we can tell, which ended this past Wednesday night in
that cage match.
Pit fight cage match. They changed the name about 3 times in the week that they were advertising it. One thing to notice, it was refereed by Kurt Angle, and that was about it. Kurt Angle came in, embraced the "You suck" chants from the PC, and disappointed that no one continued in the "You suck." What? You suck. What? During the what would be the chorus part of that, but anyway. But that was it. He pretty much called the whole thing down the middle, like an MMA ref would. But at the same time, it was also good to see him back on television after he was fired about a month ago.
Yeah, what the hell?
Which makes me wonder how, if that was actually a full firing, or they just kind of moved him like, hey, Kurt, we don't have anything. We're not sure we're going to need you on a day-to-day basis, but let's work on a deal to get you on a per appearance.
Legends contract.
Something like that. That he's not actually completely gone from the company. He's just not in the office every day or whatever his schedule was. Which is unfortunate because I think he'd be actually, honestly, if you want my opinion, I wouldn't have made him a producer to begin with. I would have sent him to Florida and had him in the performance center working with
training
my top level athletes, working with that. Yeah, absolutely. Seriously? It doesn't matter if you're a wrestler or even an amateur wrestler. Say, hey, we're going to bring you in, and part of your job is training with Kurt Angle. Wait a minute.
Huh? What?
I'm sorry. You want me to train with an Olympic gold medalist?
He won Olympic medal with his broken frickin' neck. Just if you didn't know that.
It's damn true. And you want me to go into the gym and train every day with this guy? You tell me what time to show up.
Okay. And I'll show up earlier than that.
And I'll be there 20 minutes beforehand. And if I'm lucky, I'll catch him in the parking lot on his way in. But that's just me. I would have made sure that he was both physically and mentally getting that next generation ready.
Exactly. That'd be a smart move to do with Kurt Angle, is getting him in there training.
So, did you get a chance to see the pit fight finally?
I did not see the pit fight yet. Nope, it's on my
Okay.
list.
Um,
I know
it's
you weren't too happy with it. You were pretty disappointed.
um, yeah. At first, I was a little disappointing on how things were going, um, but I've come around a little bit on it. I guess it's still like there's one major thing that looking at it would not have done because of how bad it looked and how bad it came across. At one point, they had Riddle get Thatcher down and then uncork a kick, which clearly hit him in the arm and chest. It got the nice smack because it hit him in the arm and chest, and every camera angle they would have used show it clearly hitting in the arm and chest. And then Thatcher goes down and covers his face and comes up, and he's clearly bitten on a blood capsule because it is like someone just threw Kool-Aid in his face, and that's what's coming down. And his mouth is all red, and he spat out a fake tooth. And I'm like, I wouldn't have gone that. I wouldn't have done that route. It's one of those, like, you're not going to let him kick a guy's tooth out. Don't do it, especially when you know it's going to come off. Because at looking that bad, because it almost looked like he had pink paint splashed on him. It came off looking that bad, and that's why one of the main reasons why you don't want to use blood capsules in wrestling. It's one of those, if you're not going to do it, if you're not going to commit to doing it, just don't do it.
Just don't do it.
Just
Just
work
forget
around
it.
it. Yeah, like there are so many other things you could have done that would have been legitimate looking, besides having him lose a tooth.
Yeah, that's
Um,
awful.
you know,
Makes me
so
not want to watch it. But I'm
that
done.
that that's disappointing. But speaking of Matt Riddle, he at this point they had to call him up
Yeah,
because as far as the NXT Matt Riddle was concerned, they kind of buried him because he lost cleanly. He lost that fight cleanly, and he didn't get knocked out. He got choked out. Like, he fought his way out of a rear naked choke, only to get back into a rear naked choke and then not tap out but pass out. So, um, in this whole thing, here's a guy who was a former professional mixed martial artist who just got choked out by a pro wrestler. Uh, you know, uh, man, you've kind of kneecapped his credentials there and what you can and can't do.
yeah, he needs
It,
built up.
you right, which is why being back in getting a chance to go to a new brand in front of a new audience and have his story retold, great. There's also a lot. I like the possible pairings with people on the SmackDown roster a lot better than some of the guys in NXT.
Exactly. Now another SmackDown from or thing that happened this past Friday on SmackDown, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I think you're the same way.
Yeah, go ahead.
They're using Jeff Hardy's life and his trials and tribulations as a storyline. It's SmackDown started off as Elias, or started off with Renee Young in the parking lot, and they're working on Elias. He's on a backboard, and you see a car hit a telephone pole or a street sign. Sorry, there's no damage to the car at all. The hood is up, the doors are open to make it look like it was an accident, and cops are going through it, and they find a bottle of liquor. And, he smells it. He's like, "Ooh, it's strong." They pull down the visor, and out drops the lease agreement or rental agreement for Jeff Hardy. That now Jeff Hardy was drunk and hit Elias with his car and took off running. Then they
That's
found him
what's
and arrested him on the show. And I'll just put this out there. Matt Hardy tweeted after watching that, I guess. Just to reiterate, I am happy to be working at AEW Wrestling at Tony Khan on Wednesdays.
yeah, saw that as well. When we talked about this last night, uh, my first thought was, oh great, we're going to have next last call Scott Hall version 2, which if anyone remembers that, but right before Scott Hall left WCW, they were blatant. He was coming to the ring with cups of clear liquid meant to mean alcohol. He was vomiting on television. He was doing promos in bars, all the while, by the way, still struggling with the alcoholism that has led him to where he was several years ago before he started his path to recovery.
That was
And that seems like I'm afraid that that's where we're going for the sake of an edgier program. And that is just distasteful because we're also, I mean, with the amount of relapse that Jeff Hardy has had.
yeah. Because when I first saw this, it was an article that WWE posted on their website that Jeff Hardy was released from custody in Florida for drunken hit and run, and I was like, oh my god, again. That's the first thing I thought. I'm like, dude, you're done. Just retire, go to a get help again, and just stay home. And then I see it's a friggin' storyline.
I think, well, see here, but I think that's the worst part is because they knew the reaction
That they're gonna get for it.
they
They're gonna
were
get
going to
people
get from
annoyed by it.
fans. That people were going to assume that this guy who's been struggling with substance abuse for his entire adult life messed up again,
Yeah.
and they turned that into a storyline, and not in a. I mean, I don't know if there's a classy way to do that, so I don't want to say, hey, there's got to be a way. I don't know if I want to defend that yet because there's got to be a way to do it. I don't know. That's really delicate. And you assume now you assume that Jeff would have had to sign off. Like
He had to,
he
yeah.
would not have agreed to do this unless he had some level of coming up with it or contributing to the angle. Because if you're a writer, like if you were a writer and I'm Jeff Hardy, and you come to me with an angle saying, hey, we're going to do this thing, you're going to be drunk on air like you just did a drunken hit and run on Elias, but maybe 2 weeks down the line we're gonna assume that you got framed like Rikishi did for hitting Stone Cold.
I did it. I did it for the
I might
Hardy.
I might just punch you right then and there. Like it won't be a conversation. Like that's not
That's awful.
not a thing.
That whole the Rikishi angle was awful too.
Yeah, I know it was a bad example, but still.
No. I'm just saying the whole angle was awful.
Yeah. That's why.
I wasn't
that's
saying
also
your thing was awful.
Well, it was either way. I mean, if there's a silver lining, it might mean that Jeff is in a place where he feels comfortable using that as a part of an angle, so he feels like he's gotten past a lot of things, and I hope that's the case because that means he's doing much better in his recovery. But this just reeked. And then not only do we have the actual angle in itself sucking because of the content, then you go back and watch the video and actually look at the execution, and oh my God, was it terrible. Let me go ahead and quote a tweet here by WWE backstage contributor CM Punk. All caps, by the way. LOL at the cop sniffing the full beer bottle that didn't get spilled, then saying Jeff Hardy like he's calling bingo numbers. I'm dying.
Yeah. The guy pulls out, drops the rental agreement, picks it up. He's like, Hardy, Jeff Hardy. Like, what is he got a reservation at your restaurant?
Did he just win the car in a raffle?
I did. I laughed. I laughed at that part too. I'm like, that was just odd sounding.
Right. So it was a
like criminal. Where's the criminal that just did this? I know you're here. Just come on out. Like really?
Right. Like that. That's exactly not a shot of him taking the lease thing over back to his car, and you hear a conversation with the two cops going, "All right, well, lease thing says Jeff Hardy. You should probably get on here, call the get back to station, have someone call the rental place, and then confirm that that's what this car is, so if we can go look for him."
Yeah.
No, just start yelling the dude like who did you get like did you get someone who is only knows the police through television? Like they've never been pulled over, but all they know about the cops is CSI, so that's what they assume is how this works.
Yeah, I mean,
That's who wrote this script, and no one said,
yeah, maybe we shouldn't do that.
that doesn't sound natural. Maybe we should do something else over here. Maybe we should, yeah, maybe we should just say, hey, call Hertz. Well, we can't anymore. They went bust. Call National to see who, make sure that this is the car to verify, like an actual police officer investigating a crime scene would do.
Oh, that sounds like common sense.
And there we have hit upon the issue behind last night's angle. So, and then obviously you go down the thing, and the first person, as they're announcing that this has happened and he's not going to wrestle, the first person to say something is Sheamus, who's come back as a bit of a dick. And who wins the battle? Oh my God, who wins the battle royal to take Hardy's place in the semifinals later on?
Sheamus.
Oh my God. So
But who did you watch it at all?
I did not, I did not get it live because my antenna just went out. So I was catching clips throughout the night as they were being posted on social media.
Who was the dude in the purple jacket?
I don't know.
I'll have to figure that out and let you guys know if you don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
or if you,
There was some guy who was controlling all that and making the match for the battle royal.
don't know.
We'll get back to it. But it ended up being a battle royal. Sheamus wins the battle royal, and then he fights Daniel Bryan on SmackDown. So, long story short, Daniel Bryan beats Sheamus. It's going to be Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles, which is what it was going to be all along for the Intercontinental title.
And we're assuming that's going to happen in a couple weeks at Backlash.
That's my guess. I haven't heard anything that they're just going to do it on SmackDown.
Yeah, I don't see why. I don't see why would they bother with it on TV or whatever. Well, maybe. I mean, at this point, the belt has been, it's the Intercontinental title. It's a throwaway for the fact for the most of them. So we'll see how that goes. But if they're going to put it in the hands of Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles, maybe they can make us care again with their matches. We'll see. I hope, because it was such an important thing to wrestlers growing up. You know, it was held. It was because of who they would put it on at the time. It was held in high regard as the world title. It wasn't, when Mr. Perfect was Intercontinental Champion, it meant a lot more than when, I don't know, it spent 3 years being displayed on Sunday Night Heat at best.
Yeah. It needs to be brought up to the prestige that it used to hold.
And that's what putting it on a guy like AJ or Bryan will do.
Exactly. One thing we didn't touch on was back on Monday night, Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
And then there's an announcement slate picture was shown that this coming Monday, it is his retirement announcement.
Yeah. Ceremony, not a match.
Yeah, retirement ceremony or something.
Yeah.
Don't think that it's actually going to happen.
Yeah, I can't figure out if it's one of those where it's going to be where he actually is going to go away for a little bit and then be goaded back into it because of how how meaningful pro wrestling retirements are. And if you can name me one that's stuck that hasn't been a retirement for injury, that's stuck. I mean, I'll give you a cookie because I can't think of a single one that's actually stuck besides like
Ric Flair. Oh wait, no.
No. Terry Funk. No. No, it only took him to about 72 before retirement stuck, and I think that's when he had both knees replaced for like the second time. So if you can think of something outside of a catastrophic injury that forced retirement, and that retirement stuck, and it's somebody who mattered, let me know. And someone who mattered, let me know.
So I don't think it's going to go through, or it's going to be where they're bringing out his son.
Now we had talked about that. We've been talking about that like this time last year when he was featured in a program that Ray had with Samoa Joe, and how that the plans were seeming like they were going to be that he was going to give the match to his son, and he still may. And the reason that they didn't pull the trigger then is he just needs the extra time to be ready for that.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's been wrestling on the side only or elsewhere or back in Mexico or only been working. Like, it seems a little soon and sudden.
No idea, but my call is it's not going to be something that actually is going to be sticking. Like it's going to be my call is it's something that Seth Rollins is putting up there. That
Possibly.
he designed this. He's going to make an announcement,
And then Seth comes out and
I'm
Moxley.
announcing his retirement. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
you go.
that's my thought.
Yeah, actually, that's probably a pretty good one.
And then right then I can hear Booyaka, and I can see Dominic coming out.
And then getting beaten down. And there you go. There we make that match a Backlash.
You see Dominic and Rey versus Seth and Buddy Murphy.
They don't have to put Dominic in the ring right now, honestly. If it's just Rey and Rollins, that's fine too. But yeah, no, I can see that. And so since we've apparently been able to predict angles so well, why the hell don't we have a job booking the show?
I don't. They need to give us a call.
I'm telling you.
Give us a call.
Look, I got some free time, Vince. Call, brother. What the hell?
Vinnie Mac, give us a ring, brother.
You say that mockingly. There are probably a lot of people who watch wrestling for more than 6 minutes who can predict a lot of these angles over the last couple of months.
Oh yeah,
but
very much so. But did we announce who won the title?
You know, honestly, I don't know. I know I cursed at you a lot last Saturday because I apparently am the Vince Russo of this, and I can't figure out women's wrestling. So yes, that would be the belt going back to Jerry.
To me. That's right.
Winning our Double or Nothing 7-5 that's exactly it. I lost both women's matches, and actually, and in a little bit of fairness to me, I don't think many people thought that they would make the women's belt switch then. As hot as she was coming into that match, I thought it seemed like they were going to try and draw that program out a little bit longer.
Your audio is getting a little gurgly, but it's okay.
Yay!
But yeah, so yeah, I really wasn't sure who was going to win it. I literally just picked. That was the luck of the draw. That's all.
Now, I would also say I offered it. Now, in a bit of bitterness, I said, if you want it, come get it. And we didn't decide to meet up during the week. So maybe if I'm out this week, I'll have to drop by the house and hand you a belt.
You ain't got to worry about it
for a little bit.
But anyway, we do have a top 5.
We do have a top 5. At least I can win this one.
Yes, you sure can. We still don't have number announcings, but we'll get there. So let's start out as the top 5 best WCW matches. Not WCW, sorry, ECW matches.
I was going to say, so we might be having some really interesting conversations if you wrote your favorite matches up for the wrong fucking promotion.
Nope, it was ECW. I just said the wrong damn thing because I'm stupid.
Fair enough.
Quit mocking me, you bearded bitch.
No, I'm going to keep doing that. But what I won't do is probably, maybe, not mock you for your top 5. Which, why don't we start with you with your number 5?
My number 5? My number 5 was just for you because I know you would hate it. It was One Night Stand. Oh no, I can't use this one.
No, original ECW matches.
Oh shit.
Well, go ahead. We'll put it up anyway.
I forgot it. I just did it because it was the one with Rob Van Dam versus Cena.
Which actually was a pretty damn good match.
It was a good match, but I just loved what I loved about it was the whole if Cena wins, we riot signs hanging all over the arena. And I forgot we said original ECW, and I apologize for that.
That's all right. Because we can bring that in there.
I think every other one is. Yeah, there's nothing older than 97 in the rest of mine.
Okay, it's an interesting point because that right there, that pay-per-view was right before the launch of ECW on Sci-Fi, and that was probably the last show that was even close to being an actual ECW show. And it was honestly, it was the right call to make that move at the time. I wish Rob wouldn't have fucked it up the way he did about 2.5 hours south of us when he and Sabu got busted by the Ohio Highway Patrol for weed, because there was a lot they could do. But I think it was both the right match and the right call to make. The problem is, I always thought, is that they saw how a heel Cena could interact with a crowd and then never went anywhere with it. There were enough towns that were 50% and less with John Cena that they could have easily made a ton of money with heel John Cena. And unfortunately, we never got that. And later on down the line, we'll probably end up putting him on top of the turns that should have happened that never did.
Exactly. But yeah, that was my number 5.
All right, my number 5. This is a infamous match for the ECW World Championship. As Terry Funk defended against Sabu in a barbed wire match at Born to Be Wired on August 9th, 1997. And this is probably not the greatest precedent to refer to as one of my favorite, given the brutality of it, but this was one of my first encounters with the land of the extreme. If you grew up in Northwest Ohio or Southern Michigan back in the 90s, you remember likely a cable channel called Pass Sports. It was a regional sports network that we got down here based out of Detroit. And back in the day, I was an avid watcher because those were the days when I was a Red Wings fan. So I was watching hockey all the time. But late at night on Saturday, about 1 a.m, Pass went extreme. And I got hooked just watching episodes of Hardcore TV then. And this match was the first death match that I had ever seen.
Yeah.
And my middle school mind was blown away. This is a sloppy and gory affair that Funk himself said could have cost him his life at the end there, and is an extraordinary example of how far ECW would go to hold up the banner of the alternative. And it was like I was done. I was in. I was hooked. I had to find everything I could, because how do you see that and not feel some sort of impression?
Exactly. And that's why that is my number 4.
Hey.
So you start going, I'm like, well, we're gonna have one there in common.
I'm kind of surprised. You don't seem like a deathmatch kind of person.
I just watched that part of that recently. I have a link for it. I have a link for all of my matches here.
Beautiful. Yeah. So as we say,
some are on YouTube, some are on WWE.com.
I will post all these links up. So if you aren't familiar with some of these matches, you can educate thyself.
Exactly.
So your number 4, Funk and Sabu at Born to Be Wired.
Correct.
Speaking of Sabu, he's involved in my number 4 match as he and Cactus Jack went at it on Hardcore TV back in October of 1994. This thing was billed. And it was kind of the beginning of a run they have as Jack was transitioning into the company, billed as a showdown of the two most hardcore wrestlers that more than delivered there.
What was the name of the match?
What
was the name of the match?
Sabu versus Cactus
Jack.
I
thought you called it something else too.
It was on Hardcore TV, which was the thing. I got the events in there as well. I was exposed to this one not originally watching television, but thanks to one of several collections of Mick Foley matches that I bought on DVD back in the day. I was and still am a huge fan of Foley. I wanted to catch every bit of his work that I possibly could. This was an absolute wild brawl that went all over the field house in Hamburg, Pennsylvania, a violent spectacle, and it was highlighted, and this is the thing and this is why everyone remembers this match, one thing, the toughest beer bottle ever. So Foley did commentary for this match on one of his WWE DVDs. And he tells the story that Sabu just found this beer bottle in the trash, told him he was going to hit him. It wasn't like they went out and necessarily had this plan. He's like, it was sitting on top of the trash. And he went to hit Mick with it and swung and bonked him the first time. And then you see Sabu getting pissed at the bottle for not breaking the first time. So bonks him again, and it just boom. they finally on the third hit, while Mick is talking about these lumps forming on his head, it was ridiculous, and that was the thing that kind of that moment that sticks out. But the whole match is insane. These two had a brief and actually underrated feud in the early days of ECW, and this was it. This is getting hot. And oh, right, did I mention that Jack was still technically working for WCW at the time? He
Oh,
was
really?
finishing up there and working his way into Philadelphia at the time. Something you would never see now.
Yeah. So that's your number 4?
Number 4.
Number 4. Let's see. My number 3. Barely Legal, 1997. Taz, Sabu. Sabu was in a lot of these, man. Sabu is one crazy son of a bitch.
Right?
And I always liked Taz. I always thought he was just a beast.
Before he was all just, yeah, Bones Cole.
Before his commentary days, yes.
Before his commentary days. Speaking of, just randomly, since we brought him up, he's also apparently going to be the manager for Brian Cage in AEW, which is very interesting to see. He cut a very good promo this past week on Dynamite.
Yeah, it was odd to see Taz back out in the ring and on the mic, but it was good to see. It was weird. So that was my number 3. I don't go into as much details as you do, but
I told you I started writing and I just kept writing, and that's my problem. So my number 3, we go down to the Dayton, to the Hera Arena down in Dayton, Ohio for Heat Wave on August 2nd, 1998. When, at least for the first time that I remember in this country, Mike Awesome and Masato Tanaka went to war. They had been in this violent feud in Japan and FMW for a while, and brought it to this side of the Pacific. This was one of their most intense battles. Speaking of the one night stands, they had a match at the first one in 2005. And a lot of people were stunned by the violence in that one. This one just took it up another level. The chair shots alone probably took months collectively off their lives. The bumps they put their bodies through in this encounters, like Awesome who was what, 6'9", 300 some pounds, doing a springboard plancha into the crowd, and then Tanaka hitting the tornado DDT on a pile of chairs to wrap this thing up.
Yeah. I'll have to go watch that one. I haven't seen it. A lot of these I really haven't seen. So you have seen a lot more than I have, old school stuff, and that's what I've been doing periodically, is watching some of it on the network. That thing.
Like I said, that's why I had to start the whole thing out explaining where and how I was there the first time around.
Gotcha. My number 2, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko. August 26, 1995. I literally went through and just picked random matches and watched them. So
I mean, just on talent alone, it's not a bad one to look at.
Yeah, Eddie. I mean, you've always been a huge fan of Eddie Guerrero. Rest in peace. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty solid match there. That was that's 2 out of 3 calls.
What the hell was that?
My phone was going off.
Wait a minute. All right. My number 2. Actually, the guy we were just talking about just a few minutes ago. Rey Mysterio Jr. And yes, at this point, he was still Rey Mysterio Jr., as his dad was still, his uncle was still wrestling at the time. Rey Mysterio Jr. and Psychosis in a Mexican death match at the November to Remember on November 18th, 1995. And this is one of those that will no doubt be included on lists of his best work as the retrospectives on Rey's career are being put together, apparently, because we're going to get ready for him to retire. Also, think about this. Mind-blown moment. Altogether, he has spent nearly 16 years with the WWE, and he still worked for the original ECW. And he'll turn 36 at the end of the year, or it's gonna be 46 at the end of the year. Put that one into perspective.
He's only going to be 46.
He's only gonna be 40. He's currently 45 years old. That's it.
Oh my god.
Right? Right? Mind blown. These two were partially responsible for introducing lucha libre to the U.S.
Exactly.
Before they shined in WCW, they featured at the corner of Swanson and Rittner. It was a blend of brawling and lucha. If you've seen a Rey Mysterio match, you want to come in for the fast-paced action that you expect from a Rey Mysterio match. Stick around for the brawling on the hood of someone's car outside the arena.
I love Ray, but I know he's not retiring, so we got that.
Yeah, so he'll be around for a little bit longer. I ain't worried about it.
A little bit. And that was your number two?
That was my number two. Hey, number two.
It was a good movie. Now, you were talking earlier about Sabu and Cactus Jack.
Mm-hmm.
Hostile City Showdown, June 24th, 1994. Sabu versus Cactus Jack.
I believe that was their first meeting.
I don't know. I mean, that's one of them that I found and I picked it. I was watching and I was like, oh, this is really good. That is my number one.
Okay. As it should surprise no one, I got a list of honorable mentions.
Oh, sorry.
No, I mean, it's okay because this is about to be my number one, and then that's how this
Okay.
works. One before, and I knew you didn't have any honorable mentions because there were a ton of other moments in watching the ECW through the years that you kind of went and go, okay, there's a match that sticks out and I remember.
There's a lot.
There's a lot, and I tried to write as little as possible here. So let me go through the entire list, and I know I'm not going to do it in one breath. Okay.
Should I time it?
Yeah. Ooh, good. Put a clock on me. See if this is my longest honorable mentions. It probably won't be because I'm pretty sure the Hall of Fame rant we went on last April probably is going to be the longest.
Let's go ahead and make this a new thing.
Okay. Yeah. Let's try that.
On your mark, get set, go.
Peeking my honorable mentions, and I even did it in chronological order. Cactus Jack and Terry Funk at Hardcore Heaven 1994. The infamous night that Terry Funk raised his hand to the crowd, and then 3/4 of the chairs in the building came flying into the ring. Just for that moment alone. And yes, one caught him in the bean, and he went down as well. Tommy Dreamer and Brian Lee at High Incident in October of 1996, because this was an insane gimmick scaffold match that is even more impressive when you find out that they were fighting 20-some feet in the air on a structure that was built by the Sandman. 1996 Sandman. Milk jug full of vodka Sandman built the High Incident scaffold. When I found that out, that match just got even more impressive to me. I Will Steal Yours, Tabs and Sabu at Barely Legal in April of 97. One of the most intense rivalries inside and outside the ring, because they did not like each other, finally exploded. But another match from that same card, the Great Sasuke, Gran Hamada, Masato Yuji. I knew I was going to do this. Yukushiji. Taking on the Japanese contingent of the BWO, Taka Michinoku. Yeah, he was not in the WWE, wasn't his U.S. debut. Taka, Dick Togo, and Terry Boy. All of those ridiculous, 6 and 8 man tag matches where everyone's flying in and out of the ring and bodies are going everywhere. The very definition of an indie chaos match. These 6 guys pioneered it in a bingo hall back in 1997. Also, Tommy Dreamer and Raven at WrestlePalooza, June of 1997. Dreamer finally getting a win in his years-long feud with Raven in one of their typically chaotic encounters, which Dreamer didn't even want. Never wanted to go over in that feud. Always wanted to lose. It's something it's fascinating about Dreamer. Jump ahead a year to Taz defending the ECW championship against Bam Bam Bigelow at Living Dangerously, 1998. It's the match with that spot. You know, the spot where a giant hole opened up in the middle of the ring as Bam Bam crushed Taz, who was on his back. Look, it was a great match before that big finish that everyone remembers. Speaking of Bam Bam, he'll defend that belt against Rob Van Dam a year later on Hardcore TV a month later in April of '98. That was the night that Van Dam's 700-day run with that title began. But two insane dives into the crowd highlight this match. And finally, Koji Tajiri and Super Crazy at Guilty as Charged in January of 1999. Another one of those rivalries that spanned multiple countries, but them coming to ECW made them a pair of stars in the U.S.
That it?
And time.
3 minutes, 9 seconds.
Not bad for 8 matches for honorable mention, and I won't include links for all those because the post will go
Forever
3 miles long. But my number one match already got the treatment here on this list, so I will just have to go ahead and read what I wrote. Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko 2 out of 3 falls on August 26, 1995. All of the ECW detractors over the years always hit the company and its fans for the brutal and bloodthirsty content that they presented, and to some extent they were all right. But the many supporters would point to the many technical wrestlers and technical matches that the company featured throughout its history, with this one on top of the list. On both of their final nights in the company, Guerrero and Malenko went to war in this 2 out of 3 falls battle, ending in a time limit draw with both guys claiming 1 fall. It is a absolutely dazzling display of moves and counter moves and grappling and psychology. Do your inner wrestling fan the favor, pull up the network and bask in these 20 minutes of perfection.
Nice. You like that was like a perfect trailer, like something that you'd hear over a movie.
In a world where holds and counter holds are king.
It's perfect. Look at you. Damn.
Just
Well, so we had
as well. So yeah, we actually had more of a crossover than I would have expected, honestly.
So we had Taz and Sabu.
Yep.
Guerrero and Malenko.
Mm-hmm. We had Sabu and Cactus, just different matches.
And we had Sabu and Terry Funk.
Right, and that's what surprised me. Like I said, I did not take you as a deathmatch guy.
I'm all deathmatch, man.
All right, let me send you a couple of videos from Japan.
Do it.
Okay.
Send them. If you don't hear me, it's because I'm in the corner crying.
So, which do you want, the piranhas or the alligators first?
I want them both.
Okay.
I want the piranhas in with the alligators, damn it.
Well, interestingly enough, I'm pretty sure it's the same guy in both of those matches. I'm pretty sure.
Oh my god.
One of the guys that during his time in Japan, Foley talks about going back and forth repeatedly. Their little greeting exchange back and forth was, "You Danger Man, no, you Danger Man."
It's fine. So you got the cup?
I do. I got the cup here. Sorry, doing a lot of talking here. So I got us the cup and same cup. There you go. There, that's for you. Right. Shout out to the Rangers.
Put it up. I'll reach in and grab one.
My thing's mirrored. Sorry, I don't know which way to go with my camera there, but
you grab it.
And I'll get the one that fell to the floor. Thought I was gonna do something sweet and just pop one out and grab it out of midair, and then like 3 or 4 it came out. So next week our top 5 will be, oh boy, ooh, this could get bad.
That bad, huh?
We're gonna go over the worst women's and divas champions of all time. So I'm gonna probably
Free mode.
Yeah, well, I think I know what those first 2 spots are gonna be. So we're gonna crap on some of the Divas era. Well, okay, most likely the Divas era of wrestling there. So Yeah.
I'm for it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So next week, top 5
So,
worst diva matches.
no, champions.
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 Champions. Got
I'm
that
starting to
first.
think you don't pay attention when I speak. I'm starting to think you don't listen
So it's
to
top
me.
5 diva matches.
Top 5 WCW worst women's matches.
Fuck you.
So that is what to expect next Saturday. And then next Sunday, you want to come back and be on our Facebook page right there, the Finisher Podcast. We only do this for Facebook, as we'll be live on the Facebook page. It's the only place to see it. Live reacting to NXT TakeOver in your house going on next Sunday night. Still think there's room for some matches to be added to this card, though.
I think so.
I'm trying to look this up real quick. As I probably there's got to be some kind of visual signal I can make to asking you to tap dance, but I don't know if this is gonna work.
It's all good. I was already doing it too.
It's all right. Google Chrome's not responding, so God only knows.
I got it right here. Let's see. We got NXT champion Adam Cole versus Velveteen Dream.
Baby.
North American champion Keith Lee versus Johnny Gargano.
Oh, okay.
NXT women's champion Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai.
Yep.
Tommaso Ciampa versus Karrion Kross.
Yeah, that could be fun.
That'd be a good match. Finn Balor versus Damian Priest.
All right.
I think that's all we got so far.
That works for me. It sounds like it's going to be an intense night regardless.
Yeah.
So
That Ciampa Cross match would be good.
Ciampa Cross match could be extremely good. Without, and honestly, you could get a match either out of Balor and Priest. I can't say I'm familiar enough with Priest. Oh, never mind. Yeah, I am. Punishment Martinez. Yeah, no, we're good. Yeah, that could be a good one. Got to remember, right? Yeah, a lot of the times when these indie guys come into NXT, I'm far more familiar with them from the time before they got to the show, than after.
So we will do that.
We'll do that next Sunday night. I believe
Next
that's
Sunday.
a 7:00 bell. So probably about
Usually.
6:40, 50-ish. We'll be on the air live on
Yeah.
Facebook. And that's a Facebook exclusive. You'll only see that if you come to the Facebook page, Finisher Podcast. Of course, you'll get this show and many other things on the website at thefinisherpodcast.com.
Correct. The links on YouTube will be on YouTube, so youtube.com/ I think it's the Finisher Podcast. But just go over to thefinisherpodcast.com, click on where to find us, and it's going to give you everywhere social and podcast that you can find us at in one easy location.
Including a link to our Twitch stream, which we try to do 2 to 3 nights a week, and it's just kind of random. Right now, we're playing through Halo 2. We'll see what comes up next. There may be some hockey in our future. I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go. But
possibly
right now,
some hockey, possibly some Battlefield.
Oh yeah, that's right. We do both have Battlefield 1, and I wanted to crack that game for a while. Yeah, we'll see. Right now, we're ass deep in the second Halo, though.
GTA, who knows?
Oh yeah, we could do that too. Eventually, they'll let me buy an apartment. Maybe. Please, Rockstar, let me buy the fucking apartment. I just want a place to park my fucking car.
So, fall over there. Go over to thefinisherpodcast.com, and you'll find everything there. You'll find the top 5. You'll find all of our previous episodes soon on there as well. And then make sure you come back here next week around 12 o'clock, let's say. Next
Same-ish bat time, but definitely the same bat channel.
It's the exact same bat channel. The bat channel will not change. So we will see you guys next week. Until then, have a great day.